Well, I think it's appropriately responsibility of the Department of Education. We are changing this Department of Education dramatically. We have a superintendent that herself has worked in the local schools, and we are streamlining the department. We are giving it more responsibility, and it's getting more support from the governor's office. We are also establishing standards that do not yet exist. I understand that the auditor carries out these audits that you've described, but we want to establish standards, operational standards, as well as fiscal standards that currently do not exist. Because we think without such efforts, much of what we're proposing in this education plan will be stymied. And so it seems to me that the State Department of Education is the appropriate place to provide that kind of oversight. Now, Auditor Taylor can continue to do what she does in terms of her audits, but I believe that the kind of standards that we're talking about are qualitatively different than the standards that are being looked at by the current audit system.
Who's going to be dipping into my other pocket to take the money the colleges are going to need when they don't get the tuition increases?
Well, thank you for the question. The fact is that I'm only the governor, and many of the decisions that you refer to that may be made at the local university level is difficult for me to know at this point. But I can tell you that I was on a conference call with all of the university presidents evening before last, and they seem excited about what we're proposing and express their willingness to be cooperative with us. We've stressed with them, as has the Chancellor, that our primary goal is to keep higher education affordable. We're stressing the affordability aspects during this critical recession period. But in terms of some of the other decisions that may be made at the university level, I know our Chancellor will be working with the boards of trustees and with the individual university presidents to do all that we can to see that affordability factor remains of greatest and primary concern to them. So I cannot, at this point, give you any assurance regarding those specific matters which may be made at the individual institutional level. But I do think it's very significant. I think it's difficult to overstate the significance of having a tuition freeze for 4 years. There are students who could have begun their college work 2 years ago and to go through an entire bachelor's degree program with no increase in tuition. And I think that is very, very significant, especially during this time of economic downturn and when you consider what's happening in other states when it comes to college tuition. Now, the first part of your question, was you...
Kindergarten teachers.
Oh, kindergarten. Let me tell you a little bit about our evidence-based approach. What we are trying to do is look at existing evidence to find out what seems to be effective in the provision of educational services to children. And I can't stand here and tell you statewide how many kindergarten teachers there are going to be. But I'll give you an example, and all of this is very precise in our model and will be laid out for you in graphic detail. But just as an example of how the model works. Under this model, the number of students in a classroom up to, and I think through the 3rd grade, will be 15 or fewer. The number of nurses in the school would depend upon the size of the school, student population, obviously, and so we believe the specifics of the model lead us to the conclusion as to how much it will cost. And our goal, our plan, our commitment is to provide the resources to any district where, in order to carry out the evidence-based model, the state will assume the cost of doing that beyond the 20 mil limit.